First Corinthians chapter number 2. We'll pick up, go back in and read our two text verses. Verse number 9 and 10, it says, "But as it is written, eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. But God hath revealed them unto us by his Spirit. For the Spirit searcheth all things, yea, the deep things of God." And of course, last week when we were over in the nice air-conditioned building next door, we finished up talking about how the Lord leads, how he uses the Holy Ghost to lead us, and how the Holy Ghost points us in the direction that God has for our life. And we went back and we used Exodus chapter number 13, verse number 21, where it says, "And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of a cloud." Good morning, Mr. Mark. And led them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light to go by day and night. And that's how God will move. He will lead us as we go through our life. Maybe not in the exact way that he did the nation of Israel when he led them out of the land of Egypt. We have to take that step of faith and follow him in faith. But yet here the nation of Israel did have to follow in faith for God to move them and lead them out after he did a major work through the heart of Pharaoh. But then in verse number 32, we were talking about Exodus 32, verse 24 says, "Therefore now go, lead the people unto the place of which I have spoken unto thee. Behold, mine angel shall go before thee." And this is when they were going in to take the land of Canaan. Then in Hebrews chapter number 8 and verse 9, it says, "Not according to the covenant I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand and led them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Lord." So if we're taking all of these examples of God moving and leading, and then we start trying to look at how oftentimes that we in our life are so easily led astray and so easily get out of the will of God for our lives from time to time, and how easily it is to slip back into a sinful mindset, a sinful carnal, direction in our life. We see here that God is leading, he's guiding, and he's directing. But in doing so, if we compare what God said he would do in spite of Israel's unbelief. Now, we just looked at it there in Exodus, in those two verses, Exodus 13:21 and 32:34, 32:34. He led them. He didn't forsake them, even though God knew that when they came out of the land of Egypt, everything was going to play out the way that it did in the life of the nation of Israel, just the same as it is with you and I. When we accept Jesus Christ to be Lord and Savior of our life and we start following him, he knows there's going to be times in our life in which we are going to fall. There's going to be times that we mess up. There's going to be times that we get outside of the will of God. But that does not mean that he is going to wash his hands of us like we do some people, and sometimes for rightly so, depending on what's happened in our life and what they've done to us in our life. That does happen from time to time. We will seek to have nothing to do with people anymore. I mean, you could easily say that, and I'm sure most of my family would say that about me and what happened at my family years ago. And and I guess I could probably say that is true from something that happened at Christmas of all times, and so forth. And then everybody on my family tried to downplay it and act like it wasn't that big of a deal. But yet when you as a dad wind up, you're somewhere else doing something else in the Christmas time, and then you walk up and you see your wife sitting there brokenhearted because your two kids turn around and look at you as the only two in the whole house that didn't get their Christmas present. It does something to you. And then everybody else trying to downplay it and act like it wasn't that big a deal, that just more or less seals the deal for you a lot of times. And basically ever since then, we've not really had that much to do with my dad's side of the family because of all that. But there's a lot of other extenuating circumstances that goes along with that too. So like I said, there's going to be times in our life where there's going to be things, there's going to be rubs where we wash our hands of people and try to, and no longer have anything to do with it. God is not like that. God is always the God of love. Now, when I'm saying that, I'm not meaning in the modern day era of God is love that we see plastered all over liberal churches, all over your social media feeds, whatever it is that you follow, whether it be TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, X, whatever all the other ones are. That's just the major ones that you see anywhere that you look today. You're always going to see God's a God of love. God is a God of love, but God is not a God of accepting the sin that society today is trying to push and trying to water down the holiness of God and get people to believe this lie that is being perpetrated on people today. So even though that is the way it is, God knew what was going to happen in the lives of the nation of Israel. He knew that they were going to turn and fall back after the gods of Egypt. He also knew that as they're taking the land of Canaan, that there's going to be different gods in that area of the people that were native to that area that they're going to fall in love with and wind up following after in the land of Canaan. God knew all that, yet still led them out of the nation of Israel because of the promise that he had made to Abraham. So the same thing is true with us in the fact that he does love us. He still came and died for us, and it doesn't matter what happens in our life. God is still not going to wash his hands of us, but there are going to be consequences for the things that we do. For the Bible tells us, if you sow after the things of this world, you're going to reap heartache. You sow after the good things of God, you're going to reap the blessings of that. So it doesn't matter, whatever it is, whatever path it is that we're on, whatever we do will have some type of consequence in our life later on down the road. Now, the Bible also tells us that you may not see that sin in your life, but it could come back to, and we've talked about this, to the second and third generation after you. So even in your lives right now, something that, since we have two fairly brand new mom and daddy back here, Kaylin and Travis could wind up getting out in some type of sin and nobody know about it, and they keep it hush hush, and God may not bring that sin back up in their life in their lifetime, but it could come back up in Ridge and Dean's life, or it could come into their kids' lives, that God revisits that sin to the second and third generation. So there's always going to be that whatever we reap, we're going to sow. And whatever the nation of Israel reaped, they sowed. And you go back, we even talked about this too. You go back to when Christ was being crucified. What was it that the crowd hollered when Pilate put Christ and Barabbas before him and said, "Choose you which one you want"? And then what did the crowd say? "Crucify him. Give us Barabbas. Crucify this Christ. May his blood be upon our hands and the hands of our children." And you see the shape and the condition of the nation of Israel today, and that is they got exactly what they wanted. If you stop and go back and look at it, and I've even heard people that aren't really Christians, But you go back and and I've heard this said, I think a couple of guys at work got to talking about it, the homosexual movement that's being pushed and promoted here. And they even know, the lost of this world, the people that don't have anything to do with God, know that the nation of Israel and Tel Aviv is the hotbed, which Tel Aviv is the Washington, D.C. of the nation of Israel. That is the hotbed for the LGBTQ, lesbian movement, all that different type of movement, transgender and all that stuff. And they openly promote it and get out and have their, and people flock to that, into that area. And this is the nation of Israel. This is God's chosen people. And they are still to this day, over 2,000 years later, still reaping the sin of however many generations is before that, 20, 30 generations before, when they crucified Christ on the cross. It had to happen. But that just goes to show you that it will, your consequences will, the things that we do in our life has consequences. Doesn't matter how society today tries to whitewash that fact, it's still a fact of life. So like I said, when we compare what God said, when we compare what God said He would do in spite of Israel's unbelief in the Old Testament, of leading them, the nation of Israel, to the promised land, and subsequent judgments that Israel endured due to their unbelief, do that of the lies of the erroneous spirit. So now we're comparing what happened to the nation of Israel to the lies that the erroneous spirit is perpetrating today in today's society. It's no wonder that Paul had this to say to Timothy. So if you have your Bibles and you want to follow along with us, it's 2 Timothy chapter number 3. And 2 Timothy chapter number 3. And we'll look at the first 7 verses of this. And I think when we see what Paul has to say here, we can see exactly what it is that we're talking about, as far as comparing and contrasting the erroneous spirit over here with the ecclesiastical spirit over here. So in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses number 1, it says, "This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents." And we see all of this is happening right before our very eyes. All you got to do is just walk out into public and you see it. "Unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. From such turn away. For of this sort are they which creep into houses and lead captive silly women, laden with sins, led away with divers lusts, ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of truth." You see everything that Paul wrote to Timothy happening right before our very eyes in society today. You cannot turn on anything. You can't even go down to the Walmart. You can't go to the grocery store without seeing something that Paul listed here. Now, here's the sad part is, or the funny thing is all of this was happening at that time too. This is not just something that's happening today that didn't happen back then. I think a lot of times what happens is a lot of us, we like to romanticize the things of the Bible, and we want to try to put the Bible in a time in which the things that we're seeing today didn't happen. It's just like when most of you in here, just the same as I was when I was your age and younger and a teenager, I looked at my parents and said, "You just don't understand the things at which we're facing, that I'm having to face, that I'm having to deal with out here in society, in high school, the pressures and the peer pressures and the this and the that." And yes, They did. I can look at my kids when they were coming up and say, I was your age once. I know exactly. And I'm rehearsing everything that I heard my parents tell me. I'm telling them. And one day they're going to rehearse everything they heard me say to their kids. That's just the way life is. That's the way it goes around. But what happens is that, yes, my parents did have to go through some of the things that I went through. The only difference was between their generation and my generation. I'm having to face a lot of the things that they were later on in high school. I'm starting to face in late middle school. Nowadays, the things that I was facing in middle school, we've got kids that's not much older than Kit down here going into elementary school, kindergarten, first grade, having to deal with the things that we're seeing today that many of us in here were dealing with in later years of elementary or middle/junior high school. The devil is trying his best because he knows if he can get somebody at a younger age and get them sucked in and to believe in the lies in which that the world and society is perpetrating, and this spirit over here is perpetrating and pushing and promoting today, that the chances are they're going to wind up getting so wrapped up and so involved in that lifestyle or in that lie that it's going to be so difficult for them to come away from and to leave. And that is exactly what we're seeing today. That's why used to, I'm going to knock that thing off again. Used to, the emphasis was on this side of the board. Parents wanted to make sure that their kids were raised in a good Bible-believing church. Why? Because if they got God in their life, it was going to be harder for the world over here to pull them out of the church. Now we bring them to church and we put a half-hearted emphasis on church, and we're hoping that God can grab a hold of them, all the while showing them that church really ain't that important, and then it makes it easier for this spirit over here to pull us away and to pull us out, and then we wind up going out and messing our lives up, wrecking our lives, and having to deal with the things. I mean, how many of you have ever been scrolling on Facebook or turn the aisle and see something or someone on your phone on a scroll, or turning an aisle and seeing something in Walmart you wished you'd never seen, but once you see it, you can't unsee it? We all know, we all experience that. That's the same way it is with sin. Once we experience it, it's hard to unexperience it. And that sin will get in our life and be that which that the Bible over in the book of Hebrews tells us to lay aside that sin and that weight that doth so easily beset us. And it's so hard to lay it aside and to push it away and to walk away from it. That's what this spirit over here is trying to do. That's what's happened in the nation of Israel in their life when they came into the land of Canaan and they forsook God and started following the gods of the Canaanites and the Amorites and all the ites of that land, and they're following and they get wrapped up in all of that. And now you see the nation of Israel in the shape and condition that they are today. This spirit over here really is a strong spirit. There's a reason the Bible tells us that the devil is the prince and the power and the ruler of this world. Even though this is God's world, he has the ultimate say. But that still does not mean that the devil does not have full reign and control of this world, in which he does. And that's why he's so good at what he does and how he perpetrates it, how he promotes it, how he pushes it, how he affects our lives as Christians as we're trying to live a good, godly life, and then deal with the fact that there's just some things that, I mean, it takes a long time. I mean, I go back, and I've said this, and I'll say it again. I go back to being in middle school or elementary school, and I had a couple of friends that was like, "Oh yeah, you can do this and this and this, and as long as you ask for forgiveness, you're okay as a Christian." And I asked my parents that, and they were like, "Yeah, giving the old good churchy answer, yeah, that's true, but you don't really want to get involved in all that." But all I heard was yeah, it's fine, you can do it. And then I spent I'm talking like third or fourth grade. How old are you? 8, 9 years old in third and fourth grade, something like that, 10. I spent that time all the way through high school, all the rest of the way through, and even out of that. And in church, oh yeah, I had the shiny halo. Outside of church, I was, might as well been a sailor. No offense, John, but I might as well been a sailor. And I have had to battle that my whole life. And I've had to just continually ask God for forgiveness of that and work through that and allow God to take more and more and more control of the parts and the areas of my, and there's still a lot more that I have to work through and continue to give up because of the lies and the things of this side of the board that the erroneous spirit has got its claws so entrenched in my life that I struggle with. But that is one thing, the cussing like a sailor thing. I don't, God's been good and He's helped move that out of my life to where that's not a major thing in my life. I mean, it's so unnatural for me. Every now and again, this spirit over here will get me. And I might say a mild, I don't know if there's any such thing as a mild cuss word, but anything that some of the guys at work are not used to hearing me say, they'll be like, "Did you just?" And I'm like, "Sorry." Used to, that wouldn't happen. I'd have just cut loose, and I have at work. And just cut loose and cussed a mechanic out one side and down the other. I mean, me and him was ready to fixing to come to blows in the break room, the lobby there at work, over a truck he didn't want to fix. It's your job. I'm coming to you with a problem that this truck has. Your job as the mechanic is to fix the truck and keep it DOT ready. This is yours. Well, he didn't want to fix it. Well, I went out there and I wrote everything up on that truck. Guess what he had to do? He had to fix everything instead of just one little problem. I mean, me and him, and I still have a couple of guys at work that was in there and heard that. They'll remind me of that every now and again. Even though the Lord has taken a lot of that away, and I have come so far, that is still a stain in my life. Those stains are still going to always be a part of our life, but we cannot allow those things to override and to take us and keep us in this spirit's control. God can still use it. Just look at the nation of Israel. Look at what He did with the nation of Israel all the way through the Old Testament. Even though they sinned and He had to chasten them and put them into bondage, what did He do? He wound up bringing them back out. And then He used them and they become a great nation and different things, but they still would turn back to sin. Different generations would turn and go back to sin. It's just like right now. I seen the other day. I forget, I wished I'd have saved it now. I always do this. I see something, I'm like, man, that's good. And then I don't share it or I don't save it. And then it comes to my mind and I'm in here trying to tell you something I can't half remember. But anyway, I seen this the other day. I'm going to go ahead and tell it. I seen this the other day. Maybe y'all see it. And you go, yeah, I remember that. But I seen this the other day that they were talking about how right now that you're seeing the generations of today that have been handed down this lie and everything over, God making a mistake of your originally assigned at birth by God gender, that people are now starting to see that the lies in which that people have perpetrated and told and said and convinced people of that, well, Kaylin, you should have been a man and you can be a man. And, Nate, you're supposed to be a girl. So you go have and then you live your lives. And what happened? We seen people fall into that. They went out and went through all of this stuff. And now they've had all of these surgeries. They've had all of this stuff, that they've put into their bodies that now they realize was just a lie straight from the pits of hell. I don't care. I'm going to say it straight out of the pits of hell. And now they're stuck and they can't do anything about it. And I think it had something to do what the big thing was the suicide rate of people and the lies in which that they heard growing up and everything else that people are now starting to see, and that there is a mass exodus of this transgenderism and this body reassigning and all this, that, and other. People are leaving that and walking away from that because they realize now that was not true. It was a lie, and they don't want anything to do with it. Generations will come and go like that. And I'm hoping that as we see, looking around here, I'm hoping that as we continue to go, that we're going to hopefully see more interest of young people in your all's age groups that want and have a true desire for the things of God, to where they start coming back into a good Bible-believing church. That's what I'm hoping for. Why? Because the church needs them. This church needs you all. I know a lot of times you get to the feeling that this spirit over here will tell you that you're not important. You are important. You're needed. Because if you're not here, who's going to keep the doors open when all the people upstairs ride off into the sunset? The church needs new life. And that's what we're hoping for. That's what we're praying for. That's what we're looking for. And that's what we're hoping, that this spirit over here can continue to shine in all of our lives, to where that other people see something different about us and want what we have, and start coming back to God. That's what we're hoping. That's what we're shooting for. So like I said, so as we're seeing all the different things that Paul was talking to Timothy about here, well, I was hoping to get through this, and we're not going to. But anyway, the Holy Ghost always points us toward God. If the Holy Ghost is looking toward God, then we as believers, through His nature, should be doing the same. If you look at Hebrews chapter, you can write this down, you can turn there right quick and look at it. In Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 through 3, wherefore seeing, 12 verses 1 through 3 in Hebrews, wherefore seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. For consider him that endured such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest ye be wearied and faint in your minds. And that the last part of that right there is exactly what this spirit right here is trying to get. He's trying to get us to faint in our minds, to where we just get to the point to where we give up trying to follow God and to live a good godly life, and allow God to work in and through our lives, to where the lost world can see something different about us, to where they want what we have. The world has done such a wonderful job of convincing Christians that we want what they have. It's like the old adage. I mean, when you're sitting there, I know this is something that not a lot of us really do anymore. Watching TV, used to, that was a big thing. But even on TV or ads you see on your social medias, feeds, and all this, that, and other. But the big one is always the Super Bowl. Everybody likes watching all the Super Bowl commercials. And what's the biggest Super Bowl commercial that everybody always comes out of the year after the Super Bowl talking about? Anybody got a? The beer commercials. You'll hear Christian people that go to church talking about the Budweiser commercial after the Super Bowl. The world has done such a wonderful job of painting a picture, but they don't show you the destruction that is behind that picture. I mean, if y'all turn around, you looked at that picture of the Golden Gate Bridge. I mean, on this side, it looks nice. It looks neat. It looks pretty. But if we were to take that and flip it around, what are you going to see? Nothing. You're going to see the back side of that. Maybe a little bit of wood. I don't know. I ain't took them off to look at it. But I know what's on the back of that one. Cardboard. And the back of the frame. That's it. Bleak. Desolation. Nothing. Nothing that's going to bring you enjoyment. But you look at the front of that and you see, man, that's a nice looking picture of the Brooklyn Bridge way back in the day and everything. And you can see the New York outline, skyline back behind it, in the skyscrapers down in the corner and all this, that, and other. And you can look at it and go, wow, that's pretty. And it'll bring you in. It'll bring a little bit of enjoyment. It'll bring you, I wonder what it looks like in real life. But then you turn it over and you look at it and you're like, man, there ain't nothing there. The commercials look like the front of the picture. I mean, it looks pretty. It looks nice. It looks like someplace I want to go. I'd like to go see that. The pictures, the commercials that the world is painting is how good getting drunk is and all this, that, and other, and how much you hear everybody talking about, oh man, we had so much fun, blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. You ever hear anybody really going on? Man, that was the best hangover I ever had. I puked my guts out 15 times. Boy, I'm telling you what, that was the best time I ever had in my life. Laying there hugging on a nasty toilet. No, we always just talk about the good stuff, the supposed fun stuff. That's what you hear. That's what this side over here is always telling you. These same people look at what we're talking about over here, coming and experiencing God, just like we did. And it's just so funny that we mentioned it last Sunday downstairs. Then we get over here, and what happened? God moved into this place. And you saw something that don't really happen that much. I ain't talking about the fact that the preacher really didn't preach. What I'm talking about is people getting down and using the altars and everything before the altar call. God moved in. That's what we as Christians, that's what we should be striving to see. God moving in and dealing with people and helping people and coming down and being a blessing and praying with them and trying to be there to help shoulder the load and show them that you love them and everything. You would not believe what that would do to you as an individual if you got up out of your seat and went down and kneeled down and prayed beside somebody. I saw Larry get up and come down, and I got up and went down there and sat down beside him on the front because I know we couldn't get in the floor, and I prayed with him. And I'm not saying this to brag on me, but then what he did was just one day this week, I got just this random text from Larry Stuffle. Thank you. Thank you for coming and showing a little bit of love and praying with me. How many of you ever heard somebody thank somebody for coming and going and getting drunk with them? It don't happen. But when you get invested in what's going on over here with God, and you get invested in what the ecclesiastical spirit's trying to do and work through our lives, and you get invested and you get a little bit of taste of this, what He has for us, that's where it's at. Seeing God move and work in your life, seeing how He's bringing you through this, the hard times in life and so forth. That's what it's. This over here, they will leave you high and dry. This side over here will be with you every step of the way, leading you, helping you.